if you think about your children, right, the first 7 years of life, just unconditionally love your child, right? That doesn't mean let them burn your house down or, do whatever they want. But when they do something, praise them with love. And if they do something incorrectly, right, even though we've all had a moment where, they're 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, and we're like, you're doing that on purpose. You're not supposed to do that. You're fully aware of it. I've told you like 17 times in the nicest way possible, and you're still doing it. But have that compassion of, okay, they're still a child. Yes, I want to do things that might get me on TV, but like, how do I take a deep breath and say, okay, they're only a child, and I really need to be kind and compassionate with them, right? So that's the first 7 years of life, up until basically the second grade. And if you think about school, right, what's kind of the big year when it comes to like your child's education, and where the teachers, it's like less hugs and more like the expectation is when you come in, put your homework in the homework bin and hang your backpack and sit down and get ready for, what grade is that usually? Third grade, right? And what age is your kid in third grade? About 8, right? So this kind of matches up well to where even in our school system, it goes from first 7 years of life, right? It's like, kindergarten and first grade is very fun. I mean, you're still learning things, but it's like you have to have recess, you have to have PE. They do like the 100 days of school thing, which didn't exist 25 years ago, but apparently it's a thing now. I don't know how we slipped that one in, right? So unconditional love the first 7 years, right? The next 7 years, obviously, you still have unconditional love, but start to set those expectations, right? Start to say, yeah, when you come home, put your backpack here, do this, have your snack, but like, have reasonable expectations of, right from wrong. In my office, when we play board games, right? So in child psychology, there's something called play therapy. I don't know if people have heard of that or not, but sometimes you get a kid that's 5 and they sit down and they're like, let me tell you about my day. And you're like, oh, okay, what happened in kindergarten, right? But then sometimes you get kids that are just kind of like, I don't know, what do you want me to say? So play therapy is this really nice way of, okay, let's not engage directly. I'm not going to ask you about depression or anxiety or your parents or self-esteem or whatever. We're going to play a game, and almost all games have ups and downs, right? If anyone's played Uno, there's been like some epic games in Uno, right? Where it's like an emotional roller coaster. Same thing with Candyland and all these kind of things. So as you're playing, you get to see this child, right? How do they deal with stress, right? How do they deal with, I'm about to win and then I get this card and oh my gosh, now I'm going to lose kind of thing, right? How do they deal with winning? How do they deal with losing? And so the idea is I can indirectly learn about this child and their emotions and the way they think about things and the way they feel about themselves without having to ask them very directly. And you guys, I'm sure you've seen this at home as well. Maybe your child will draw something or they play with their dolls or action figures in a certain way. And you're like, okay, I wonder if you're feeling, this kind of way. And so even in therapy, research shows up until about age 7 or 8, you let them change the rules, right? Or you don't, at least you're not punitive with them, right? If they're playing and they need a 5 to win and then they get a 3, but they're like, oh, that dice touched the carpet, so I got to roll again. And you're like, okay. Oh, and it's okay to say, right? Like, oh, I guess we're changing the rules as we play, right? Once you get to about third grade, and then they say like, oh, the spinner didn't spin all the way, so I'm going to spin it again, right? To be able to say, yeah, I know it's kind of hard to not get what you want, right? You're so close to winning and you want to beat me so badly, or, this kind of thing. But how about we set the rules at the beginning of the game, right? Or how about we stick to the rules and just kind of focus on having fun together or just feeling sad? It's okay to feel sad. And so, right? So the first 7 years, unconditional love. 7 to 14, right? You want to parent your child, love them, set boundaries and expectations. It's okay to have rewards and punishments and, those kind of things. But this is the really important age, right? Because they're going from elementary school and they're starting middle school, right? And that's also the transition from where they're spending more time with their family, right? When they're younger. And then when they get to middle school, right? They don't want to be seen with their parents, right? They're kind of like, drop me off like half a mile from school. I'll walk. It's fine, right? And so you want to set them up to where, yes, they're going to make more choices. They have more freedom in middle school, but you're hoping that like, right, you want to hang out with the kids that, have similar interests or make good choices and that kind of thing. So those are the first 2 sevens. the third 7, right? Age 14 to 21. That's when you become friends with your kid, right? And so that doesn't mean, right, you go hang out with them on the weekend or like, help them find drugs or stuff like that, right? That means you treat them as an equal, right? Now I want to hear what you have to say, right? Like you want to go to which school do you want to go to, right? Or we're going to go on vacation. Where do you think we should go? Now, does that mean you agree with them, right? Does that mean they have equal voting power? No, right? It just means they're getting to an age, right, to where they're thinking critically. They have a better sense of who they are, hopefully. They still don't know who they are, but they have a better sense of it. And they're just smarter, right? Like who are as teenagers? Anyone, right? They can be difficult, right? For sure. There is that teenage rebellion thing, but they can also be pretty brilliant. And so we want to cultivate this sense of like, I care about what you say, right? I want to hear more about how you think about the world, even if they are kind of like, I think 12-year-olds should be able to vote. Like, if we can have 80-year-old presidents, why can't we have 12-year-old presidents? And you might be thinking like, what? Right? But to be, oh, tell me more about that. Why do you think what do you think would make a good, you know, 12-year-old president kind of thing?